The transfer window has slammed shut and Tottenham have had a very, very mixed summer. Finally, all of the stress and the hassle and the not knowing what's going on behind closed doors with transfers, incomings, outgoings at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club is behind us. Probably not the deadline day that I think a lot of us were hoping for and expecting. However, we did manage to get a deal done with Randal Kolo Muani coming in to the club on a straight loan deal, interestingly, with no option to buy, no obligation to buy, but Spurs still missing that left winger, still missing that centre-back that they were reportedly hunting for in the final days of the transfer window. So this is sort of like a review video, talking about the transfer window for Spurs as a whole, rating it, talking about where I feel we're now at going into the rest of the season, or at least until January. And I do want to start with the fact that I am disappointed. To be honest with you, I don't want to. I sat here and contemplated it. I was sort of like, oh, like, is it greedy of me to say that I'm disappointed that we haven't brought in a winger and a centre back? I don't think it is, because time after time and year after year, we have left our managers and the club in general short of those players that we need to kick on and really improve as a team and as a squad. And when you consider the fact that we've lost James Maddison for the whole season, Dan Kulusevski likely out until 2026, obviously Heung-min Son out of the door as well. Yes, we've signed Mohamed Kudus. Yes, we've signed Randal Kolo Muani. Dominic Solanke's now injured for potentially a good couple of months. We don't know. We'll see after the international break. But it just feels like we are just still a little bit short, particularly in that attacking area. Brennan Johnson starting at left wing every week is really not inspiring, and it's never going to take us to that next level, I don't think. And maybe we will see someone like Xavi Simons or someone like Randal Kolo Muani perhaps going into those positions going forward. But I feel like there was a deal there to be done for Ademola Lookman, which I think if we could have potentially got that done on a loan with an option to buy, that would have been a really shrewd bit of business. I just feel like we left it too late. We left everything too late. That was the theme of this transfer window, that we left everything too late, which is really, again, disappointing because we had the entire summer to get deals done. We left it really late, and I don't think it was a panic buy to go out and get Kolo Muani on a loan right at the end of the transfer window on the final day, because we know from experience that we were interested in him in January, did reject us for Juventus. But it's a very interesting deal nonetheless. I do think he's a very good player still. I think he had double-digit goal contributions in his half a season at Juventus, and a very, very good return as well. So I'm actually happy with that deal. He's very versatile. He can play as a striker, he can play as a winger, he could even come into that number 10 role if we need him. And ultimately, Kudus, Kolo Muani and Xavi Simons are three excellent attacking additions, right? There is no denying that whatsoever. They are very, very good signings that Spurs have made, and they elevate the team. When you throw Paulinho into the mix as well, I think it's a better window than a worse window. But we spent so much time waiting for Savinho. We spent so much time dilly-dallying, wasting time on the Eze deals, on the Gibb White deals, flirting with the idea of trying to get Rodrigo in on loan, that it just felt like we ran out of a lot of options. And ultimately, again, we've struggled to get players out of the door. I mean, there are talks that Brian Hill is actually going to leave for a fee of around 10 million euros, by the way. So to that extent, I think finally to get him gone is a very, very good move from the club. There have been talks with Crystal Palace over signing Manor Solomon, because reports emerged early on deadline day that apparently Solomon said he wants to stay and Frank's willing to give him another chance. And I'm not going to speak too much on the situation for obvious reasons, but he's not that guy, and he's not someone that should be playing for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. But it does seem to have hit a snag, that deal with Palace, because Spurs want to include an obligation to buy. Palace just want an option on that deal. So in terms of outgoings, as usual, we had rumours of Basuma potentially going. He may still go to Turkey, because I believe their transfer window shuts later than the European deadlines. But I do think if Solomon goes on loan to Crystal Palace, if Brian Hill gets out the door as well, they are two players that we've been trying to ship for well over a year now. That is the only positive from the outgoings perspective. There are probably still a couple of players at the club that you sit there and think, there were obviously talks about maybe could we have replaced and upgraded on Richarlison. That was never done. Thomas Frank said he's very happy with him. And again, the left winger slot, as I've already mentioned, is a bit disappointing. But if I had to give this transfer window a rating right this second, I think I would give it a 7. I think a 7. I think some people would say an 8. I think some people would say a 6. And it's very much, I think, up for debate what we could go with. Ultimately, we've upgraded our right wing position by bringing Kudus in. We have added a very good attacker in Kolo Muani, even if it is only on a straight loan deal. Xavi Simons, arguably the signing of the summer from a Tottenham perspective. He's going to really, really, I hope, be a revelation for us going forward. And João Palhinha, again, another kind of stopgap. So there are a couple of loans in there. Obviously, the Kolo Muani and Palhinha deals are loan. So it's interesting to see where we're at this time next year and whether we keep either of those, whether we're going for replacements. There are talks online saying that Spurs want to go back in for Savinho in January and that Thomas Frank is desperate to have him at the club. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on. And I feel like because there have been so many talks of Spurs going for that centre-back, talks with Akanji, talks with Ake, and going for that left winger, talks with Savinho deal not being dead, talks about getting Lookman potentially as well. We maybe feel slightly disappointed from that perspective because of that. But I am excited to see the new boys in action. And as I've mentioned, I'm going to be just grateful that the transfer window's shut. No more speculating, no more stressing, no more worrying. We've got the squad that we've got. And now the Champions League is on its way. Premier League, we need to bounce back from that horrible Bournemouth defeat. The cup competition's a very, very nice draw against Doncaster in the Carabao Cup. There's a lot to look forward to from a Tottenham perspective going forward. And we do have new talent. And for that, we can be very, very grateful. Dejan Kulusevski will come back into the squad in the second half of the season. That's absolutely fine and he will be good. But with no Maddison still, and obviously with Son departing, you can't help but question, are Tottenham in a better position now with the transfer window closed than they were last season under Ange Postecoglou? And that, I think, is hugely up for debate. And I don't really know where to go from that perspective, just because Tottenham have been so hit and miss with their recruitment over the last few years as well. Like, we don't know necessarily if Xavi Simons is going to be a massive hit. We all hoping that he is, but we don't know. Obviously spent significant money on him. We don't know if Kolo Muani is going to be able to come in and replicate the form that he had in his loan move at Juventus, but you could say that for every signing. I think what we can firmly agree on is Simons, Kudus, Palhinha and Kolo Muani are all upgrades on the positions that we have. So if I had to give an overall review of a transfer window, I'd go with the tagline like good, not great. Good, not great, I think is a very sensible and reasonable assumption and analysis and assessment of this transfer window. I think when you look at a team like Liverpool, it's very easy to get jealous because they're signing Gehi, they're signing Isak, they're signing Frimpong, Kerkez, Wirtz, all of these players. Arguably one of the best transfer windows of all time on paper, or at least Liverpool's. And Chelsea splashed the cash. Man City have brought in a load of new talent. Manchester United, Arsenal, everyone. Pretty much everyone. But at the end of the day, we have made a good couple of signings. I still think we're short, and it will only take a couple of injuries for us to be back where we were last season, struggling. So maybe we have to hope to an extent that we are able to stay fit and keep our players fit this time around. I think there's going to be a lot of emphasis on Tell and Odegaard for that left wing position now over there. I think they both looked bright in the game against Bournemouth when they came on. I don't think Brennan Johnson belongs on that left wing slot. So are one of Tell and Odegaard going to step up and be that person we need them to be on the wing, who are so important in Thomas Frank's system to really get us going? I hope so. Before I finish, I'll go through each sign and I'll give them a rating out of 10. Mohamed Kudus, I think that's a solid 8.5 out of 10 sign. He's been really, really good so far. Really great profile for Spurs. Exactly what we want. Direct, runs at people. Really, really solid signing. I think if we then go to Palhinha, 7 out of 10 signing. Loan, not an obligation to buy, I don't think, but I think the option to buy is very, very cheap. comes in and does a job, especially in games where we're going to be on the back foot. But, you know, we don't need him in games like Bournemouth, like he played in the other day. So I think that's a good, not great signing once again. Randall Kolo Muani, I think on a straight loan deal, I maybe would have liked an option to buy in case he does really just set North London alight and just burst onto the scene in the Premier League. I'm going to give that a 7.5 because I do think we need an attacking reinforcement, particularly in that striker department with Solanke potentially being out for a while. And then Xavi Simons, 9 out of 10. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic for Tottenham Hotspur and I cannot wait. He's the one I'm excited to see the most in a Spurs shirt. So that's our transfer window really. Some big hits, some misses, plenty of frustration, but a lot of good to have come out of it as well. And I'm sure once the dust has settled and everybody's sort of over the initial disappointment of maybe not bringing in a couple of signings on deadline day, I think we'll come round to it. But now we get to wait through the international break to see how they hit the ground running. And I'm excited for that. It's West Ham when we get back. But don't go anywhere because I'll be back with plenty of content over the next couple of weeks. Bear with me though because I am moving house this week. You can barely see it in the background here, but there are boxes everywhere at the moment. It is chaos, but I will try and bring you as much content as I can. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Let me know what you make of our transfer window in the comments below. Can't wait to see some of your guys' thoughts. Thank you so much for watching as always. Come on, you Spurs.